everybody, welcome back to my Kickstarter journal that I am doing to constantly remind you that I need money for my project. Also, I don't plan on doing these every day, but I will do them every time I'm inspired or struck or it's been a little bit, to constantly remind you that I'm here, I'm capable of doing this show, you want to see the show, and you need to see this face and hear his point of view. But today I'm going to talk about something that inspired me to do this. I'll use the word inspired a little liberally. It is news that was on a writers group I'm in Canada. Shout out in Canada. It's a great writers group with great discussions. But we're going to talk about like black art and black artistry and the authors of it. This has to do with two films. The first film being Groundhog Day for a Black Man. It was written and directed by Cynthia Cao, who is an Asian woman. I'll get to all that in a moment. And Two Distant Strangers, the Oscar award-winning short film, which is currently on Netflix. So Cynthia Cao did this film. It's a 5-minute short. It's kind of sketchy. She has, I believe she has some comedic background, and she is a graduate of UCB. But she did this film. It's got heavy themes, but it also has some levity and some lightness to it. And Now This saw this and took the film and promoted it on their website and gave her all the shout-outs in the world. Then later on, Now This is one of the producing partners on Two Distant Strangers, which won an Oscar, and they didn't give her credit. First thing that triggered us was like authorship. Like, how dare you take credit away from this woman who created something that clearly was inspired or at least linearly connected to one of the producing partners, which happened to do the same thing. If you don't know, both films are basically Groundhog Day for a black person, where this black person can't really escape being killed by the police. I really encourage you to see both films. I think both are good. Both are take on the topic differently. As it was written in the Ink Canada group, you can't copyright the idea. You can only copyright the expression of the idea, and that expression of that idea is in two different realms. The other thing that triggered me about this whole thing is it was an Asian woman writing a black story, and then there's black people behind Two Distant Strangers. It's very different. So there's parts of it where I'm like, I wouldn't play that for laughs, but you know, we're not a monolith. Not everyone feels the same way as I do. But in Two Distant Strangers, they really handle like the heaviness of it and the trap of like restarting that day over and over again, which I think really works using that Groundhog Day like theme. And by the way, I do say Groundhog Day, but it was done before Groundhog Day. That day replay thing has been done over and over again. It was done in Twilight Zone, and it was done most recently in Palm Springs, which was a great movie with Andy Samberg. I know this is a side, but go watch that as well. And the reason why I'm talking about this today is, for me, I talk about who's telling stories and who's telling what stories. And I'm not one that says, hey, only black people can tell black stories. I don't believe that, but there are sometimes certain nuances that you can certainly tell, and I feel like when you're not within that realm, you have to do that extra homework. Also, which a lot of times we are blocked from writers' rooms or working on shows is because they can only have one black person, and that black, if you want to do your own thing, then write your own stories, and then some of these stories are taken away from us, and so that throws me for a loop. The gatekeeping and the availability, and I'm a writer. I've written 3 pilots. I've gotten good feedback on all 3 of these pilots, but I can't just walk in somewhere. I'm gatekeeped so far out of this realm where I can't show those pilots or get improvements in the way or have time to apply those improvements because I have to work this day job and take care of my family, and there's all sorts of things that are going on. I don't have the liberty to work an unpaid internship. It's my catch-22 that I'm very much stuck in. At the end of the day, I do think she should get credit for that work. I just don't think she expressed the idea as good as what eventually we got on Netflix. Right now, in my head, there's an idea that has been expressed that I don't like the expression of. Anansi the Spider is a Ghanaian folklore. I'm Ghanaian, and there's 3 major interpretations of him, and I hate all 3 of them. There's the Marvel version, written by a white guy is a big tribalism thing that's really not Ghanaian. There's the DC version where he's wearing fedora, and don't even get me started on fedoras. I haven't seen a Ghanaian in a fedora in forever. And then there's a Neil Gaiman version of him, which I'm just not the biggest fan of how he was interpreted, especially in the show of American Gods. To conclude this journal entry, I really want to tell those stories. I want to be behind them. I think more Black people should be behind them, but I'm also not in favor of blocking other people who tell those stories as long as they do their research. Include Black people in your process. Give them writing credit. Put them in the room. If you really are inspired by these stories, then have your inspiration with you. I'm just going to remind you that I am raising money for my Kickstarter. I really want your support. Tell a bunch of people, tell a bunch of friends. $5 from a lot of people goes a long way. Oh, and also subscribe to me on social medias, all the social medias at Yao Experience. But I will see you soon the next time I do a Kickstarter journal. Deuces.